In the spring of 2023, the city of Hudson, Ohio, an affluent suburban enclave nestled between Cleveland and Akron, was a picture of calm. Wide, tree-lined streets wound past stately colonial homes on generous plots of land. The community was the kind of place where neighbors waved to one another, where evening walks felt safe, and where violent crime seemed unthinkable. But on April 19th, 2023, that illusion shattered. That Wednesday afternoon at McDowell Early Learning School, a little girl just shy of her 5th birthday waited for her father to arrive. She was used to seeing his familiar black Porsche SUV pull up without fail. Her father, Dr. Todd Morgan, was a 41-year-old business and finance professor at the University of Cleveland. To his students and colleagues, Todd was intelligent, disciplined, and well-respected. To his 2 children, he was simply Dad, goofy, loving, and always present. As the minutes ticked by and the school emptied, concern grew. Todd had never been late before. Eventually, the staff contacted the girl's mother, Mary, Todd's ex-girlfriend. Mary immediately felt something was wrong. She called Todd's phone. It rang, but went unanswered. She called again. Still nothing. Todd's reliability was one of his defining traits, even amid the custody disputes between them. By the time Mary drove to pick up her daughter herself, unease had turned to dread. After securing her daughter, Mary called the Hudson police to request a welfare check. She explained that Todd had failed to pick up their child and wasn't answering his phone. Something she emphasized was completely out of character. Dispatch recorded the details and sent 2 officers, Peggy and Bowen, to Todd's residence on West Streetsboro Street just before 7 p.m. The sun was setting as the patrol car turned down the long driveway leading to Todd's home. His Porsche SUV was parked out front, gleaming in the fading light. The property looked peaceful, but an unnatural stillness hung in the air. As the officers approached the back door, they spotted something deeply unsettling, a smear of what appeared to be blood. The house was silent. Cautiously, the officers stepped inside. What they found would haunt even seasoned law enforcement. "Radio, go back. Get EMS out here," one officer called, his voice tight with urgency. Just inside the back door, Todd Morgan lay motionless on the floor, wearing only a dressing gown. Shell casings glinted on the hardwood around him. His head bore a devastating wound. For a fleeting moment, a self-inflicted gunshot wound crossed their minds. But something felt off. If Todd had taken his own life, where was the weapon? Officers swept through the house, clearing each room. At the base of the staircase leading to the 2nd floor, they spotted another spent casing. Upstairs, in a child's bedroom, a piggy bank was knocked over, coins scattered on the carpet, but nothing else in the room appeared disturbed. Electronics, laptops, and tablets were all untouched. It didn't look like a robbery. In the master bedroom, the scene raised even more questions. The bed was rumpled and chaotic, as if someone had left abruptly or there had been a struggle. Bottles of alcohol sat open. Several condom wrappers were scattered across the floor. On a nightstand shelf, a Spider-Man mask concealed a loaded handgun. Two other firearms, both unloaded and registered to Todd, were found in a nearby closet. None matched the caliber of the shell casings on the floor. Back near the door, the frame was splintered outward, broken in a way that suggested it had been forced from inside the house, as if someone had staged a break-in. A fragment of the door frame lay several feet out on the deck, farther than any accidental break could have thrown it. Even more telling were the footprints. Blood-stained prints led from the body, across the deck, and down the steps toward the driveway. The tread pattern was consistent with boots, not the shoes worn by any officers or paramedics. The killer had walked calmly away, leaving Todd's Porsche untouched. When the Summit County medical examiner completed the autopsy, the findings were grim. Todd had been shot 7 times. 2 bullets struck his left clavicle, wounds considered fatal within minutes. 1 shot had been fired at close range, leaving stippling on his skin. The weapon used was a 9mm handgun, but it wasn't one of Todd's registered firearms. Detectives began to pull apart Todd Morgan's life. On paper, he was a success. A bachelor's degree from Cleveland University in 2005, a master's in 2006, and a PhD from Kent State University in 2015. He had taught at universities in Massachusetts and Michigan before returning to Cleveland State 2 years prior. Students found him engaging and knowledgeable. Colleagues considered him bright and dependable. Yet whispers soon surfaced of complications behind the polished exterior. Todd had ongoing custody disputes with Mary and a past marriage that had ended in divorce. Neighbors remembered seeing a stream of visitors at odd hours. One neighbor, Linda, whose daughter had babysat for Todd, told detectives she had always felt something off about him, not based on anything she could prove, but because his lifestyle didn't fully match the image of a professor's salary. The Porsche, the renovations, the free schedule. It had raised her suspicions. Investigators quickly ruled out robbery. Todd's electronics and valuables were left untouched. His wallet, keys, and car remained. Only his phone was missing. That missing phone became a critical lead. Whoever killed Todd had taken it, possibly to hide text messages, calls, or GPS records. Detectives canvassed the neighborhood for witnesses and video footage. Some neighbors reported hearing gunshots earlier in the day. Others recalled seeing a light-colored vehicle in Todd's driveway. The open condom wrappers and bottles of alcohol suggested Todd might have entertained someone before the shooting. Detectives began digging into his dating life. Through search warrants, they accessed Todd's social media and dating app profiles. There they found evidence of recent conversations with a woman he had met on Bumble. Location data placed her phone at Todd's house the morning of April 19th. Surveillance footage from a nearby doorbell camera captured a car arriving and leaving Todd's driveway around the time gunshots were reported. Forensic teams uncovered 2 burned cigar tips at the scene. DNA analysis linked them to Terayona Pascal, a 23-year-old woman from Akron. Digital records revealed that Pascal had searched Todd's home address and looked up his profile the day before. In the hours after the murder, she had Googled her own name repeatedly, and checked whether news outlets were reporting on the homicide. She also searched for information about what Apple might disclose to police investigating a crime. On May 27, 2023, more than a month after Todd's death, Pascal was arrested in Akron. She was charged with aggravated murder, aggravated robbery, and tampering with evidence. Prosecutors described the killing as a violent encounter that escalated quickly after the two met in person for the first time. The motive was not publicly clarified in detail, but investigators suggested robbery or a dispute during their meeting may have triggered the attack. In September 2024, facing overwhelming evidence, including DNA, surveillance footage, and phone records, Pascal pleaded guilty to aggravated murder. She was sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 23 years. In court, Todd's mother delivered a heartbreaking statement. "Only God, Todd, and you know the truth of what happened that day. All I know is he was brutally murdered by you, and he died for nothing." Pascal expressed regret and asked for forgiveness, though the family's pain was immeasurable. For Hudson, a city that prided itself on safety, the murder was a brutal wake-up call. Residents who had once left their doors unlocked began checking their locks twice. Parents clutched their children a little tighter. The tragedy also served as a cautionary tale about online connections, the hidden risks that can come from meeting strangers in seemingly ordinary circumstances. Todd Morgan's life was complex, but those who loved him will remember his devotion to his children above all else. Friends recalled his playful side, the dance-offs in the living room, the trips to the park, the joy on his face as he played video games with his son. His little girl's wait at the school that afternoon, still expecting her dad to arrive, remains one of the most haunting details of the case. Even now, the details of that April day echo through Hudson. A father's absence at a school pickup triggered a chain of events that uncovered hidden connections, digital trails, and a brutal act of violence. The broken doorframe, the scattered coins, the bloodied footprints, all were pieces of a puzzle that, when assembled, revealed a shocking betrayal of trust. Behind the facade of a successful professor and the quiet charm of a suburban neighborhood, darkness had slipped in unnoticed. For two young children, April 19th, 2023, will forever be the day their father didn't come for them, a loss impossible to explain. For a community that once believed itself insulated from such horrors, it was the day the illusion of perfect safety was irrevocably broken. And for those who follow the case, it stands as a grim reminder. Even in the most ordinary places, even among the most familiar faces, secrets can turn deadly. At the quiet house next door, Brian, a retired grandfather who spent most of his days at home, sat in his recliner that morning, unaware that anything had gone horribly wrong. The spring sunlight filtered through his curtains, catching dust motes in the air, and the familiar hum of the neighborhood lulled him into the same comfortable rhythm he had known for years. But even he, someone who rarely missed a thing on his street, had not seen or heard a clue about what had taken place only steps away. When officers arrived and asked if they could speak with him, Brian greeted them politely at the door, slightly puzzled but cooperative. "Have you seen anyone at the house?" one officer asked. Brian shook his head, slowly, his brow furrowed. "I'm retired, recently retired," he said. "I'm here all the time. I haven't heard anything, not a peep." The officers exchanged glances. Even those closest to Todd Morgan had no sense of the violence that had unfolded just after dawn. Across the street, Eugene and Sherry, a married couple who had lived in the neighborhood for years, watched the growing police presence with concern. When officers approached them for information, they were eager to share what they had heard earlier that morning. The couple recalled hearing what could have been gunshots ring out around 7:20 a.m., but at the time, neither connected the noise to anything sinister. They had assumed the sounds might have been a car backfiring on the nearby road, or perhaps construction work. Todd had been renovating his home over the past year, and the clatter of tools was not unusual. Still, Sherry couldn't quite shake the memory of the sharp cracks echoing in the early light. As she spoke to detectives, her voice trembled slightly. The weight of hindsight was settling in, and every detail suddenly felt important. The couple also remembered something else. In Todd's driveway that morning sat a light-colored crossover, a vehicle they had never seen there before. It wasn't the sleek Porsche Todd usually parked out front, nor the newer Jeep they often saw when friends or family visited. Eugene described waking up early, around 5 a.m., and noticing the unfamiliar car already parked beside Todd's. Later, at about 7:15, he glanced outside again. This time, he saw a figure emerge from Todd's house, walk quickly, though not running, to the waiting vehicle, open the door briefly, and then return inside, carrying what looked like a package or a box. Within minutes, the quiet morning erupted into the sounds they would later realize were gunfire. Sherry, peering from a different window, caught another glimpse of the persons leaving. The figure had long hair brushing their shoulders and a slight build, small enough that she couldn't even tell whether it was a man or a woman. The person slipped into the light-colored car, which then pulled away at a calm, steady pace, rather than in a panicked rush. At the time, Eugene even joked that if anything serious had happened, surely the person would have been more frantic. But as he and Sherry recounted the moment to police, that memory now felt like a haunting clue. When detectives asked if they had any security cameras, Eugene checked his Ring doorbell footage. Unfortunately, the car was only faintly visible in the grainy video, a fleeting blur that confirmed its presence, but offered little else. A still frame, captured around 7 a.m., showed the vehicle parked beside Todd's Porsche, but by 7:30 it was gone. The Ring recording even had a gap in the feed, an unlucky break that meant investigators couldn't see the moment of departure. Still, this was enough to establish a timeline. Someone had been at Todd's house in those crucial minutes before his murder. As officers pieced the information together, the tragedy was becoming clear. Todd Morgan, a respected professor and father, had not taken his own life or suffered an accident. He had been murdered. The questions now shifted from what had happened to who had done it, and why. Investigators began reaching out to Todd's family, friends and acquaintances. His ex-girlfriend, Mary, the mother of his young daughter, was notified by Hudson police. Her voice cracked when she answered the phone. Detectives gently pressed for any information that might reveal if Todd had been involved in any disputes or dangerous relationships. Mary explained that Todd had struggled with alcohol in the past and that his sobriety was monitored through a breathalyzer device linked to her phone. She received updates on his tests regularly, and the last one had been recorded the day before the murder. Nothing in his recent behavior suggested he was in imminent danger. When asked about conflicts in Todd's life, Mary recalled tensions involving her ex-husband's new boyfriend, who had once felt threatened by Todd's presence during custody exchanges. But she wasn't aware of anyone Todd was currently dating, nor could she think of anyone who would want to harm him. The detectives took note, but her uncertainty left them with few concrete leads. Then came the revelation that shifted the investigation's direction. At 7:21 a.m., the exact time neighbors recalled hearing gunshots, a 911 call had been placed from Todd Morgan's address. The dispatcher answered, but there was only silence on the line. Accidental emergency calls weren't uncommon. On some smartphones, pressing the power button multiple times could trigger an SOS call. Investigators theorized that during or just after the shooting, the killer may have inadvertently activated Todd's phone, placing the call without realizing it. Tracing the number led to a name: Terriana Siobhan Denise Pachel, a young woman from Akron. Her description: a slim build, long dark hair, and a silver crossover, matched perfectly with the neighbors' accounts. Officers were dispatched to the address listed for her, but when they arrived, the homeowner denied that Terriana lived there. He refused to let police inside, insisting she was only a casual acquaintance and wasn't present. The refusal only deepened detectives' suspicions. Hudson detectives continued their search into the night, working urgently to locate Terriana. They began tracking her phone data, hoping it would reveal her movements before and after Todd's murder. What they found painted a damning picture. Only 6 minutes after the accidental 911 call, her phone was traveling at high speed on Interstate 271 near Macedonia. Todd Morgan's phone followed the same route, before stopping abruptly, never to be recovered despite multiple searches. The next day, investigators traced Terriana to her sister's apartment complex. Her silver Ford Taurus X, missing a back plate, sat in the parking lot. She was taken into custody without incident, her expression unreadable as detectives placed her in handcuffs. What had begun with a single accidental call had now snowballed into a web of evidence linking her to the crime. Ballistics analysis revealed that a 9mm cartridge found at Todd's house matched a firearm tied to an unsolved 2021 Cleveland homicide, one in which Terriana herself had been a suspect. That case had stalled for lack of evidence, but now the connection was undeniable. Investigators also examined shoe prints from Todd's deck, identifying them as a specific Nike model. Scouring her social media, they found photos of Terriana wearing identical sneakers only months earlier. Surveillance footage captured her silver Taurus leaving Hudson that morning. And in the days following the murder, She had switched devices and phone numbers, a move police interpreted as an attempt to evade tracking. Her online activity further implicated her. On April 22nd, just days after Todd's death, Terriana searched, "Can police track my phone even if I remove the SIM?" She also accessed news articles about the murder and ran dozens of searches for her own name in connection to the case. DNA testing sealed the case. Her genetic material was found on a cigar and on items inside Todd's home. When detectives brought her in for questioning, Terriana initially denied even knowing Todd Morgan. She claimed she had never been to Hudson, never been at his address, and had no idea how her phone or DNA could be linked to the crime scene. But the investigators confronted her with mounting evidence. The Cash App payments Todd had sent to her that morning. First $50, then an attempted $1,000 transfer that was never confirmed. The Bumble chat logs showing their connection, the surveillance images of her car. Terriana remained evasive, offering no confession and no plausible explanation. As prosecutors built their case, Todd's family and friends struggled to comprehend the senselessness of his death. Todd's mother, Sandy, recalled her son's efforts to rebuild his life. Only weeks before, he had told her he felt broken, but was trying to heal through exercise, meditation, and faith. Now he was gone, leaving two young children without their father. Facing overwhelming evidence, Terriana ultimately accepted a plea deal rather than face trial. In exchange for pleading guilty to aggravated murder and a gun specification, she was sentenced to 20 years to life, with parole eligibility after 23 years. In the courtroom, Mary delivered a heartbreaking statement describing the devastation her daughter felt when her father failed to pick her up from school, too young to understand he would never come again. Todd's mother spoke through tears about the profound loss of her son and the stolen future he would never see. Terriana herself spoke only briefly, offering a hollow apology to the family. The judge delivered the sentence with measured gravity, reminding her that parole was not guaranteed and that her choices had permanently altered many lives. The courtroom fell silent, the weight of the moment settling over everyone present. The tragic murder of Todd Morgan had begun as a confusing scene in a quiet Hudson neighborhood. A Porsche in the driveway, a silent phone call. Neighbors unsure of what they had heard. But through persistent investigation, careful attention to detail, and the courage of a grieving family to face the truth, the pieces came together. Thanks for watching Into the Crime Depths. Like and subscribe for more true crime stories. See you in the next case.